thing. Like if it sounds like you're hearing some sound, just let me know.
You got it. And we are live on the old YouTubes as per usual. Hey, hey, hey. It's your favorite three dudes who are dudes being dudes talking about the stock market. It's Bags and GP and JFDI coming to you Tuesday, April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern time. A little bit later than that, 103, but who's counting? Guys, we've got two updates in a row here from all of the crisis that was last week. We just in a dead cat bounce. What's going on?
Nick, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I it's tough to. I think this bounce has been kind of long expected, at least over the last week or so. I mean, we were reaching some pretty like kind of maxed out oversold readings. I think no matter what probably indicator oscillators you're really following. Um, there's a part of me that uh was pretty happy to see a pull in prior to a lot of the megas reporting this week. I
Mhm.
think those will kind of determine whether or not this is a dead cat bounce or not. I think I kind of posted a chart of the SPY I don't know, a couple days ago and just kind of how I thought like we could potentially like kind of like leg once more down, but I think if you're looking for like a V-shaped bottom, like we really got to rip out of here, and that's probably saying that like one of those bigger names don't come out and kind of disappoint, or the market likes what they all have to say pretty much. Um,
Well, the constant disappointment's up today.
what's that?
After hours, Tesla.
Yeah, that's I think I kind of like same thing. Like I don't even all the guys that are like the perma bulls on Tesla are like just tossing in the towel. So it's I don't know. Yeah, I think the reaction it's not so much how they report it. It's more or less the reaction to what they report and what the market wants to necessarily do. I
Yeah, I
I
mean we've
think that
we've seen best earnings of all times from company and the stock be down, right? So we've
yeah,
seen earnings that weren't as great as we probably expected, but stocks went higher. So it's always a crapshoot with earnings, but with Tesla reporting today, that's my quarterly pick. I'm interested in watching that, but I don't know if it's a dead cat bounce. Like, I mean, we had the cues on. I mean, we
like
bounced right off of this previous level of 412, 413 ish.
yeah.
So I can see building a base
If
here would be nice, but I mean, I'm not going to be convinced
if
until
we
we,
spend some time going sideways here,
yeah,
and just kind of continue to chop around, it would probably frustrate more people than anything because by the time we do actually resolve higher, the 200-day will have definitely caught up by then, which I think a lot of people, at least on the queues, were probably eyeing like let's just say a 385 to 400 like that kind of zone, and maybe we don't get it. I think the ideal scenario would be if you are in the camp or like a hardcore bull thinking we're gonna V out of here, is to see us to kind of continue bounce into like let's say 435, 440, pause for a few days and create kind of a pivot there. And then we have a pivot to kind of trade against versus just saying, okay, after the close yesterday, I was like, the close yesterday made me a little weary. I was like, God, I don't know if this low is going to hold, but I mean, just the more I'm scanning outside of like tech, I mean, I think there's a lot of good looking setups between largely like financials and like the XLE in general too. I think all look freaking great, but maybe yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just where I was going
no,
with that
no,
was like
no.
it's a little
You,
too. No, I don't want to say too early, but I need more information to say it's a dead can't bounce or not. It's definitely an oversold rally. That's for sure.
All right, we're
Like,
done.
look at what is that plastics you have on there? I mean, you can see how, that was pretty much oversold down there.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
On the daily, it was at a 2.
Um, I think the argument for the V out would probably be like sentiment largely. Like, it's been pretty freaking lousy.
Yeah, sentiment's bad. But 2 nice
Same
free
as
bets in a row. I've got longs up here, and there's a lot of green on the screen. GP, I'm sorry.
is there any
Yeah.
more consensus than Tesla's gonna hit under 100 on this earnings? Because
I,
that's
I
like literally everyone, even bulls who have gone all in or whatever, are like, be prepared for 100. This is the volatility of Tesla. Everyone's preparing for death strike,
I mean, I
right?
would be greatly surprised if it dropped 30%.
I hope it
I
does because it gives you the fucking opportunity to buy in here, right? So all the people
I'm not
who
saying
are,
I hope or I don't hope. I'm just saying I would be greatly surprised if this dropped 30% on earnings today. It
yeah,
can
well,
drop, but 30%, that's a big number.
considering we're straight down from 260 without even flinching, right? Like we are down $120, over 50% down since the start of the year almost. And you think the earnings is going to be the reason we drop under 100? It's possible,
Yep.
but all of this stuff, in my opinion, is set up for further upside, whether it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now. There's a lot of new bulls who are talking about Tesla in a way that they actually know Tesla. And it's like, no, it's Max Payne always. Like it's always Max Payne, like accepted, defeated. Elon's not doing anything he hasn't done in the better part of the last 16 years of being CEO of Tesla. Like I see posts on Twitter. It's like, well, fire Elon. I'm like, do you know how bad that would be?
I don't know.
I
I kind of feel like I reinvigorated the Tesla crowd with my less than favorable words of Elon, but that's okay. I'm long, by the way. I'm long Tesla.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, fine, maybe it goes under 100. I don't honestly care. These are opportunities to get in when you can, and then the same people who are bitching now will be like riding the bull all the way up, be like, I
For
told you
sure.
this was gonna happen.
For sure.
And so Tesla, I think the earnings are actually irrelevant. I'd like to see some positive reinforcement from Elon. It is nice to see that he canceled the India trip, and his lack of leadership has shown in the way they've been kind of meandering around with price cuts and FSD and all that other stuff. So it'd be nice to get some solidity. Solidity? No, I don't know if the right word, but yeah, just be nice to see some opportunity for for him to show that he's still steering the ship. And I don't know. I remember 2019, 18, there was literally chances of being bankrupt, right? Like this is nothing. Like your price is just not going in your favor. I get that, but like literally they weren't sure if they can make it. They had to raise money.
I mean, I'm only down 18% since making this my quarterly pick. So I feel great about it. I think we're going to the moon.
Yeah. And so in terms of dead cat, it's to me, it's not a dead cat. It was a reset, and the reset gave an opportunity. If you see what they did, once again, the dispersion trade ruled supreme. Like if see what they did to all the rate cut sensitive names, Carvana, Square, Roblox, Wayfair, Net, Affirm, Roku, all into OpEx, right? And then it just stops. Like it's kind of funny when you look at that. But a lot of them are earning breakout retest. But this is normal, right? Like when you don't have enough buyers to take you to the next leg higher, you normally go back and retest the breakout. It's just normal. Like you just don't happen to have it happen in 4 days like we did last week. But the quicker the reset, the more chances of it being a buyable dip, right? The slow grind down stuff is the stuff that's scary because it's only incremental selling, and then when the news starts to get worse, it gets accelerated. Right? I think we talked about this in January 22, where the volume sell on the size of moves was not even close, right? And I think we talked about last week as well with Roku. It was down like 300 points on like really no volume, and then it accelerated volume wise, and it's been stuck ever since, right? So, I think you have opportunities here, to get long. The quite like I think all you need to know is Netflix, right? And I've said that for a long time, is that it couldn't break higher, so it broke down. But it broke down to what? Retest and fill that gap from earnings. And now it's essentially that's a Morningstar pattern.
Yep, it held the gap up
Yep, it
so
held the
far.
gap. But after the earnings, it also had another gap, and it filled that, and now it's doing a Morningstar pattern. It's a 61 over almost a six over a 61% retrace of the earnings candle already. And this is day three. And Nick, you talk about this quite often, is if things start to fill gaps, upside or downside, the strength is in the direction of the gap that's being filled. Right? Like if
Yeah,
you have an upside gap and then it immediately fills, the chances of it having further downside is a lot higher. So
for sure, sure.
if Netflix here can fill the upside gap, the chances are that this was a reset to gather more buyers to push through. And then finally take, because that earnings was stellar. Okay, so they're not reporting subs. Who cares? Like this is the dumbest reason on the planet to sell. It's a
Yeah,
mature company.
what you're calling the earnings candle, like a lot of the growth guys just they call it the HVC, the high volume candle. So like on the daily, dude, it didn't even, well, it almost bottom ticked the low of the high volume candle. But either way, pr price just retraced into that high volume candle, and to your point, basically held, and it's been getting bought up ever since.
But it was getting bought
So
up 5 minutes into earnings, right? Like if you look at the 5 or 10 minute into earnings candle, it was like 1.6 million in down volume off the gap down, and then close to like 1.7 on the upside. So like they were buying it, they were looking to buy, right? They were looking for the dip to buy. And sure
yeah,
enough, they came in to buy it. So this to me is a classical reset. I think we've talked about this, is like its refusal to move higher is indication that it's going to go lower so it can gather more buyers to push higher.
yeah,
And this to me,
yeah.
this is technically sound. This is not, oh my God, their earnings were terrible. No, their earnings were great and we still had a terrible reaction, right? And so but we'll see, right? This is what markets are made of. I personally think now Netflix has the energy to finally take out all-time highs. It is the first Mag 7, Fang, Magma, whatever stock you want to call it. It is the first one that bottomed. First one. And it's the only one that has not taken out all-time highs. Just from a reference perspective, right? Amazon did, Google did, Meta has, Microsoft definitely has, Apple did, even though Apple's in a downtrend right now. Apple did as well. We can go through all of them. Nvidia obviously did. AMD. There's so many have. So to me, I think this is an indication of where we go higher.
Well, I'm always always check on Apple, right? Because it's such a large part of everything in the stock market. Um, it's basically holding that low that it had. Now that doesn't mean it can't do a Tesla and go lower, but I think um, I you obviously want to see it hold this 164-ish area, but there are worse setups out there. It doesn't look great in its downtrend, but there's worse setups out there than Apple. I'm not saying I'm going fishing here, but not the worst risk reward. I mean, I think 164, the risk down to probably mid 150s. But yeah, no, GP, I hear you. I think you're spot on, as you have been for some time now, just about the whole where strength is and how strength plays out. Nick, right now you're mentioning financials. That's something that GP's been speaking on for a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you liking in the XLF or the KRE or the individual names? And most banks have already
Goldman. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Goldman. I think it's
that.
on its run to 500 at this point.
All-time
This is
high
good.
tick right now.
Goldman's going to 8, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, all the better.
Sorry, I'm going to throw it out there. Goldman's going to 8. Um,
A
Personal
double
opinion,
from here.
honestly. Your money, my advice.
Double your money right here. You heard it from
I
GP
say
first.
500, just largely based on the range from 3 to 4 and just extending that out. I was speaking with someone in regards to measured moves, and you know the saying, like, the bigger the base, the higher in space.
Mm-hmm.
The measured move is typically going to be a conservative price target because, again, the longer price has been within a base, within a range,
Yeah, the
it's
measure moves
likely.
to 600. On the initial breakout, the measure moves to 600. The range of this cup, or whatever you want to call it, rounding kind of top above the 2008 to 2020 consolidation, right, on a monthly level is 156 points. So 156 plus 426 gets you to around that 600. Like, this is rough napkin math, right? So
Yep,
it
yep.
gets you to that like 600 breakout range. But the
Yeah.
longer picture, the higher picture is that is breaking out of a 15-year base, like not 15-year base, and then after it broke out, you put in another 2-year base on top of that, right? So to me, this move here in financials and Goldman and a lot of the financial names, even the small regionals, is setting up to be pretty monstrous in my opinion. And so if you kind of take the lows and highs of the base from 2008 to 2013, its measured move from that alone is I believe 230 points from 274, so that gets you to 600 as well. So there's a lot of things that get you there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I don't
think
think
that's great, by the way.
that looks. I don't know if there's anything I like more than Goldman right now.
You should like Netflix.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So Pan W looks good. I don't know if anyone else.
Hey, whoa, we went from a long-time hater to a first-time lover.
First time caller.
Hey, I love the sound of that on the cybersecurity front, GP. I think I was going to bring up cybersecurity later, but I think CrowdStrike looks good. It's got a little bit of a rounding, but I like its bounce back that's having here. Obviously, I love Sentinel One. Sentinel One's been treading water down here in the low 20s. It doesn't look as good as Palo Alto. Looks really good, especially on the lower time frames. And the weekly right now is retaking that 9. So I think
I'm still watching that 318 level in Palo Alto, because if it rejects that, it will be the head and shoulders. So just something to keep in mind, but short term, it looks like it's
Yep.
got to move to that area.
Yep, right there, that pink line, that would be the top of your next shoulder.
But if we
that
don't and we
out.
break right through that and we crush right through that, that to me is a failed head and shoulders, which is even more powerful.
Amen, brother. What else you like, Nick? Other than Goldman?
Um, I kind of like all things finance,
All things finance.
like CLSK and Riot, both. I like more than Mara. I think Hood's looking pretty good.
Hood
Coin's
looks
looking
great.
good. Like Coin and Hood in particular are basically holding their 50-day right here. The Going back to like the idea of a dead cat bounce potential, where we're kind of bouncing into in some of these names is kind of bouncing right into where there was a previous floor. So there could be some resistance here. But again, like I think if we kind of, bounce and move sideways, that would be obviously a dream scenario for bulls, but we may or may not get it.
I think so, Nick, just to add to what you're saying is a lot of this stuff reminds me of the spring setup from like the COVID times, right? Like in a base straight down for 1 week or a couple weeks or whatever, and then
Yeah.
it gathers enough buyers again to break through the base, right? So Coin obviously doesn't have that history, but if you look at the other names like Wayfair, Square, and all those other names, they hit the top of the base, came back 20% quick corrections, and you have the ability to now use this as a spring setup, right? To move through the base. Question is whether they do or not, but it looks very similar, not the same drawdown, but similar structure. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love Coinbase.
Square both.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually liking the setup in PayPal almost more than Square right now, but
No desire for PayPal.
GP's going to jump all over. I knew that was happening. He's going to jump all over you, Nick.
It's not that. Which one's the better structure, right? And so to me, I have yet to see buyer like look at the PayPal weekly. Is there one single accumulation candle on this
Well,
chart?
Nick,
Right?
you were saying you like PayPal. Why do you like PayPal more than Square?
I just like as of how it's set up currently on the daily. I like kind of I don't know, the symmetry, the higher lows. I think really the determining factor is going to be the bust through like 68, 69. If it can bust through there, I'm all over PayPal. If it can't, then I'd definitely retreat into.
Yeah, it's got to fill these gaps. Just like we started the conversation, it's got to fill these gaps to the upside, right? You've got this one and you've got this one.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
an inverted
I'm
head and shoulders.
Yeah, on the weekly, I totally agree. I'm on the weekly and even the monthly. I would agree with GP. I like the setup and Square better. On the like shorter time frame, that's daily. I just like the setup here in PayPal.
It's got to clear
Uh,
that 77 level where it's sold off twice. Those
Yep.
big red candles there.
That's where those gaps are.
Yeah. So that's the level that it needs to honestly clear for sustained upside, in my opinion. It could just be a range. You're still going to get 20%, right? In this range from 60, what is it, 64 to 77.
Yep.
It's still 20%. So it's not a bad area, but the real move begins after it clears 77.
yeah, you
So the
could
question,
probably even Square's even already attempted to go. I wouldn't say that either of them have. Well, obviously not PayPal, but you could probably argue that Square has already attempted to go stage 2. And so if we see any strength in Square, it would just be stage 2 continuation. So like if we got a snapback here and Square rips through like that the declining 20-day and where the 50-day is sitting right there. Again, I actually like, yeah, on Square too, like the 77, 78, like you could easily pull I feel like you could easily pull a double out of Square. I hate to say easy because it's not usually how it plays out, but
And that's
you
the
know,
thing, right? Square and Tesla don't get any of the Bitcoin love, but if Bitcoin after this halving session, um, starts to now break out and move higher towards where I think it's going to be going, then you have these guys who have these Bitcoins on their balance sheet, and they're in from like the mid 30s. That if we get 100,000 on Bitcoin, they've tripled their balance sheet numbers, right? Their cash reserves or whatever. So there's definitely some catalyst to seeing this stuff, and they're not getting the premium for holding these investments, so to speak.
um,
Now I
I
can
think
see the
yeah,
inverse head and shoulders on the PayPal, and it looks pretty good. So yeah, the initial clear would be of that 68 level, as you said. I think I
Yeah,
saw a lot of low in it back in the day. I'm gonna have to look it up.
it's
um,
there.
not a normal go-to for me. Um, I saw someone tweeting on Twitter yesterday about the airlines, and so I was kind of scanning through like airlines, and there was a lot of like good-looking setups, I thought. And then I guess I didn't even realize that there was an airline ETF, but it's Jets,
Yeah, Jets.
JETS.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, damn, like I mean, I probably I'd have a tough time going after like an individual name, at least just in my current like Delta right now, I think looks phenomenal. And it's actually breaking out today. Or at least out of its kind of like daily kind of range here. Just where I'm currently at, I don't know if I would want to go after individual names. I'd probably just go after the Jets, but like if Boeing is already coming out and talking about flying cars, I know this is kind of a ways out, but you
So
gotta
pair
think,
trade, short Boeing by the airlines. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not a bad pair play there.
I like
Just
that
do
idea, Nick.
absolutely. I'm just saying,
I,
if
I
someone is coming out and talking about flying cars other than just Tesla, I think that kind of just bodes well for the future. And yeah, I don't know.
we're just living in a Jetson world.
Did
Yeah,
Jetsons.
are
Yeah.
are
So
are you projecting that Elon's going to talk about flying cars, or have we been talking about flying cars? What? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Elon
he
has
came.
talked about it.
He
Elon
was the
talked
only
about flying cars.
Yes.
Of course he fucking did.
Yeah, apparently you can buy a package upgrade that already like installed like I don't know, I can't remember what the verbiage or what he actually said, but it was like these like I don't know, like jetpack things on the side, like I can't remember the exact verbiage that he used, so I'd have to go back and look, but um I
We'll be waiting on that as long as we've been waiting on the promised self-driving, fully autonomous.
yeah, but where I was kind of like where my mind is going is that the last year was everybody and their mother was talking about basically the market being dominated by the megas, the Mag 7, right?
Yep.
And we're also this like kind of massive integration with AI. I think that what we're gonna start seeing is like a total I don't even know how to say like we don't know what we don't know yet, but I think we're gonna start seeing like a broader based rally, like names all over the place start to really start moving. I is kind of where my head is going. Like, and I'm like I guess maybe it's just my little bubble on like StockTwits, maybe, where everyone is so focused on Tesla, Google, Amazon, yeah, even the next seven names, and then like the SMH, where I almost kind of felt like I think I got sucked into that a little bit and got lazy with a lot of like my scanning
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of homework because like the names that I've been in over the last year, like they're all working. So it's like if everything's working that I'm in, I don't really have an incentive to kind of venture on out and to continue doing the work. And I'm kind of slapping myself for doing that. But anyways, that's kind of where my mind is going. I don't know how you guys
That and
which
that you know what that's based on the fact that those are the ones that have been working in the same way they used to work pre-money, right? Pre-free money, as in
yeah.
like their V shapes, they're momentum driven. They actually um like I like Disney here, right? But Disney doesn't have those types of Disney retesting the earnings breakout. It's fantastic, right? It's setting up for higher, but it doesn't have those 10% days. When was the last time Disney had 10% days? So you'll have those. You had a 10% day in Nvidia just on Friday. Too bad it was to the downside, but it was a 10% day. You can't get those those momentum kind of life-changing moves in these other names, at least not yet, right? So that's why the focus has been there for the most part, because those are the ones who've been moving with any kind of gusto on either side, especially if you're an options trader.
There anything like outside of the normal kind of convo spectrum that you have your eye on? Like yeah, I don't know.
So the two names that are in my kind of spectrum that I've been watching, obviously outside of the regular ones, is Nike.
Really?
Okay.
Right. I'm not saying it's a great setup, but it's just watching because I want to see what this is one of the largest consumer good product companies on the planet, right?
Yeah.
So what it's doing and stuff like that, that's important to me. The other one is actually Starbucks as well, another consumer good products, right? And so it broke down below the pivot. I want to see if it has it's still, if you're looking at the longer term chart, it's still higher lows, right? But it broke the recent pivot low. So the question is, can it reclaim it? So I'm not trading those, but I'm keeping an eye on those for kind of overall sentiment because you're looking at one of the most addictive drugs of all time, coffee, struggling. And one of the best consumer products in the last 30 or 40 years when it comes to goods and stuff like that is also struggling. So can these names stage a reversal, right? Or can buyers step in? And if the buyers aren't stepping in, what are they seeing that's a bigger problem on a global stage? So that's why I'm watching those two, if that makes sense.
That makes
Yeah.
all the sense in the world.
I can't even imagine where retail is going with the introduction of both AI and the metaverse. Like, I don't know if there's going to be there should be at a certain point in time there should be literally no overhead. There should be no like everything is going to be custom made and made to order versus like them having to stockpile a whole pile of like size 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. You're going to hop on the metaverse or hop in the metaverse, whatever, and like have custom made, and it's going to be like, and then you're going to have some robot like basically stitching it together and mailing it out to you. You know what I mean?
I
Like I
still
don't know
think
how these.
we're a long ways from that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Well,
mean, I don't have a
I
clue. I
think
just
for our next leg higher, we'll need the consumer AI piece. I don't think we're
sure.
as long as like other cycles, but I think we're still away from that. And you'll see that when you start seeing the names that are AI consumer related start to do better, right? And to me, one of the bigger names is Apple and Google, and obviously Tesla as well in a different universe. But um, those are the names that when those consumer names start picking up steam and showing that they have implemented AI is when it gets a global scale, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
those are the names I'd be watching for.
I hear you, Nick, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying as far as, you know, being able to try on, experience things either, in the metaverse or wherever else, augmented reality or whatever you want to be able to experience that. I mean, you can do a lot of the augmented reality stuff already. Um, I
Yeah.
think I think a big part of the problem is, and Fanatics has really done this better than most, is being able to get whether it's garments or shoes or whatever out to the consumer quickly, but it's not all made to order yet. Like you can get jerseys that are
Sure.
printed, right, or stitched back to you quickly, but that's all based on a template, right? So it's not like design your own or custom fit just yet. It's like the same size shirt. We just have to personalize it with a name on it. So Fanatics is, and you'll be able to read all kinds of things between the Fanatics Nike deal for Major League Baseball. Pretty much the jersey quality has suffered because of this speed of getting to the consumer. So you're even losing quality at the cost of some slight customization at this point. So I'm with GP. I think we're a little bit further off than maybe we realize. I mean, time will fly by, but it's not going to happen over the next year or two, I don't think. I think the way AI and virtual reality and augmented reality is really going to help us is in the logistics space and in the manufacturing space. I mean, you're already seeing, and even the healthcare space, you're already seeing doctors and engineers build things that then can either go be 3D printed or built at an industrial level, right? And those things come to life. So I think that's where we're going to see continued evolution, and it'll trickle down to the consumer. I mean, we're going to see a lot of AI consumer tricks, whether, like Wendy's was teasing last quarter. I think they said they were going to raise the menu prices during a peak time. Well, they were giving it was really poorly explained, but they were giving an example of the virtual assistant in the drive-through window is going to know the surge pricing and is going to be able to adjust the pricing on the fly is a better way of explaining what they were trying to explain, I think, on their conference call. They got so much heat back on. So I think the AI aspect of the consumer's life will change more than the virtual reality and the having those custom experience and then having the materials, garments, whatever sent to you later. I think that's still a little bit further down the train track.
My brother's a chiropractor, and he works in like a medical office, and I'm just using this as an example. He has a like you can go. So I've gone in to see him, and uh, they have these way of doing these like body scans.
Mm-hmm.
And so like basically I held on to two handles while standing on this um like foot tall kind of cylinder. And then basically like lasers went all around me. So what it was more or less testing for was largely muscle imbalances,
Mm-hmm.
because based on muscle imbalance, I can then figure out where I'm like inefficient basically. But the just in them doing that, uh like when the printout came, like I could order basically a perfectly custom fit, like, I don't know, like latex or whatever kind of suit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
accurate and like I was just thinking about that, like in terms of Nike and footwear going forward. Like if you're able to scan your foot, and I'm not even talking about just like custom designing it because they're a brand, like they might not want to allow for, all these kind of custom creations. But anyways, that's just kind of where I was thinking where I was going with it, just because I'm like, holy cow, like we're
Yeah, but
talking
like
about
even like your foot though, in your example, right? Like you're getting a
yeah,
body scan and it's tailoring it to your specialized body, right? Now,
from
that's not happening at large scale to get those distributed right now, right? Like that you have to go
that's
to your chiropractor or your doctor's office to get that done. That's not just opening up your phone and being able to do that right now. That's
yeah,
that's
totally.
the point where I'm saying whether it's customized as far as design or it's customized as far as your foot by putting it in people's hands with their phone, that's a whole nother level of distribution and manufacturing those pieces. That's not online yet.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, for sure.
But
No,
yeah,
no
dude,
doubt. It's on the track. We'll get there before we know it, but it's still a ways down the way.
But
You
and
know,
this
you're
requires
not gonna be
a
able to scan your foot and get like a 4 times wider shoe than you should be wearing, right? Like there's width and length proportions that they're still going to keep you within somewhat. It's not going to be like, okay, I can get a size 15 4x wide, right? Like that's just those are clown shoes. You got to go to the Halloween store to get those.
sure, for sure. I mean, I'm just like my mind's kind of blown like wide open as far as like the potential and like the I know a lot of people want to go to the like kind of conspiracy theory and like negative side of AI where I'm like, why does it necessarily have to go that way? Like, I mean, like, kind of to your point, like, let's just use the iPhone, for instance. Like, when the iPhone came out, like, dude, it was like, I don't know, however much it was. Like, not many people wanted to spend $500, $1,000 on an iPhone or two, whatever it was. And over time, like, the prices are coming down. Like, initially, when things come to market, it's going to, again, to
Mm-hmm.
your point, probably start with like premier athletes and then kind of working their way down to like the rest of us peons, out here.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if
like, if,
LeBron wants to custom anything right now, Nike's going to have it to him by the end of the week, if not sooner.
yeah, for sure. And then like to a whole nother like almost humanitarian point where the negative side of like a lot of these things being produced and especially produced overseas is like basically slave labor, child labor, etc., where the use of AI pretty much absolves us of that. You know what I mean? So like for you to get that custom fitted Nike shoe, it the integration of AI is going to make that capable. Like they might not be able to get it to you within the hour or within the day, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
the manufacturing lines is something that you're is going to be the holding thing back, right? These legacy, you can see it in you can see the first glimpses of trying to change legacy strategy, like look at Ford, look at GM as they tried to change from gas powered to electric powered, they struggled, right? Because their bread and butter is what it is. So Nike and all these things will find it hard to change their manufacturing process that's been in process for 20 years to adapt for this. So I think that's why there's time for it
yeah,
to reverse, right? Or to set up. So I think it takes time for those things to hit the consumer product. But that's when you start to see escape velocity, right, on all this stuff. and then the potential of what I think we've talked about this time and time again, which is we know that AI is the future. The question is what's going to be the winner of those futures. And if you ask someone in 2000, 1999, 1997, 98, 99, well, who the winners of the internet would be, I don't think anyone would have told you it would have been a bookstore, which is what Amazon is, right? Or was. Yeah. And so their evolution. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to take time to play out in terms of where it looks like in the future. But the ones that adapt, the ones who try for those things are the ones to be paying attention to, right? I think that's what you have to try to find value in and recognize in. And so that's the thing about, if we go back to Tesla, which is Tesla has continued to offer us things that we did not ever imagine possible, right? If you told me that Tesla was going to be selling over 2 million cars a year that were fully electric, I would have called bullshit in 2008, 2009. Would anyone would have been able to picture that? I don't think so, right? So I think so you got to just pay attention for the longer pictures in terms of what people's visions are and what they can see. And maybe you can't see the vision right now, but these guys have been setting trends in their own respective industries. So it's best not to overthink it, in my opinion. All right, like no one thought Amazon would do what they did, but then they introduced AWS, and for the large part, everyone ignored AWS for the first like 4 to 5 years. And then they started seeing the margins and the growth, and everyone's like, oh shit. And that's when Microsoft turned. I think that's when when they said, hey, we're gonna do the cloud infrastructure like Amazon had done with AWS, is when Microsoft started to turn. And now it's one of the best for a company that went sideways for 15 years under Steve Ballmer, changed its full trajectory after that, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
let's shall we go back to charts? We have about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. I saw we had an AMD request out there.
AMD, like everything else, is semi-broke the all-time highs, the earnings response, all that other stuff, and now is trying to potentially set up a false breakdown. It filled the gap, essentially filled the gap, and now it's reversing.
Yep. What else?
And it's about to take out Friday's highs, right? On a day like Friday, when they could not sell fast enough, a lot of these stocks are about to take these highs out already.
FSLR.
Beauty.
Looks pretty good. We did have a request for BlackBerry. Haven't looked at BlackBerry and I have no idea how long.
Yes.
No, I mean, it could be a double bottom. I don't know. I don't fish there. I don't look at the chart.
There's a lot of selling in that chart.
Doesn't look favorable, but as we've said 1,000 times, anything can be traded. Doesn't mean it's a game for us, but just looking at the chart, I mean, you're still in a downtrend. You do have a little bit of buying here over the last few weeks, but you still got to clear this trend line. You still got to clear the moving averages. So still some work to be done if you are long or trying to get long BlackBerry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hi, Zach. Long time, my friend. Blackout.
Redfin was another one.
Yep.
I like Redfin. It's not trading well, obviously, but it tested the bottom of that base. So I'm still long, underwater, of course.
Brian, on AI, thoughts on Palantir? Palantir had a nice bounce at 20, and that's where I would want to see it bounce. That's That's the range box from its previous move up. So that's where you want to see it hold.
My only concern is that huge weekly volume bar. That's my only concern. Those are typically, yeah, those are typically capitulation bars, right? Either upside or downside. So that's my only, especially after having lots of weekly accumulation bars beforehand. That's the only thing it is holding where it needs to. So if it continues to do that, it'll be fine. But that huge volume bar might indicate that there's no buyers left, so it has to go lower.
If it loses 2020, it's back into the range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
2020
I
is right
kind of
here.
agree. I think the 16 to 25 is kind of the bar that it had that that massive bar you're talking, where basically it topped out at 25 and it couldn't get going through that 25. So now it's back within the range of that bar. It could just as easily go to 16, the low of that bar, as the other way. I own it. But 2250 is where I'm looking for it to kind of bust through on a near term. And then 25 ultimately, I want to see it get above 25 and go.
Is this just a trading position, a short-term trading position for you, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach, hi Zach. SANM. Sanmina. No idea what Sanmina is. Health technology.
Love the weekly, a little thin.
Why did it ever trade at 363? Are these reverse? Is it just not like it hit 363 in 2000?
I mean, it's in an uptrend if you look at the monthly, so that's good. Um, you know, I hate the Batman patterns, and I see it every time I see it, but that might be the Batman. Um, I would want to see it retake the highs. I would want to see it above the 68, basically.
Can you pull up the quarterly on this?
Yeah.
Interesting. I wanted to see it on your screen versus mine.
Yeah, I think above 60, 66, 67. I like it a lot better than here. It doesn't look bad, in my opinion, but
I just don't see any accumulation on. There's
yeah,
lots of quarterly
and it fails right there, right? So that's an obvious fail point. It's done it
Yeah.
its entire history. So other than that,
Zach, the
I mean,
one thing I would
it's a clear cut trade, I think, right? Like if you lose your moving averages, or it can't clear 67, 68, then you know what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
the one thing I was going to say is just on my Market Smith, its accumulation distribution rating is a D.
It's not great.
And over the last 4 quarters, the number of funds that are involved in it have been kind of declining by about 50. I'm sorry, by about 25 funds per quarter. Although the 2024 estimates were down about 18%, and then their estimates for 2025, I think, were up 25 to like 30%. But
And it has earnings next week. So
yeah. Yep.
You know what looks interesting to me?
Tell me.
Snap.
You sending them dirty pics again, GP.
I am.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Tell me why it looks good to you, GP.
It obviously sold off on earnings pretty harshly, right? And it's kind of that 1085 level. It has just continued to to find support and base there over the last nearly 2 years, right? So the sell-off, that sell-off candle, that low was 1082. So I kind of like this. If the TikTok ban kind of potentially has any kind of firepower, I think it helps Snap a lot. Um, I don't think it helps as Meta as much as it helps
I think it helps Meta the most.
from an ads perspective, right? But user engagement, I think Snap has a lot of potential. Management sucks, so I understand that, but it has a lot of potential, especially to capture some of the AI space. Because if you think about Snap, they've been doing a lot of the augmented reality stuff, like the filters and stuff, way before anyone else has. I just like where it's holding. So if you use 1085 as a level, then it's a trade, right? It's not a long-term investment, not at this point, but
But TikTok's not going to get banned
no, it's not.
because they started their own Instagram clone called Notes.
That's a terrible name. How are you gonna have TikTok and then notes?
Well, if TikTok were to get banned, then they've got Notes, which is Instagram, and everybody who loves TikTok will go to Notes.
I know,
Believe it.
but the name should have been like Gram Talk or Tick Gram or
Um,
you know what I mean? Like notes is like threads. It's like no,
I'm sorry, I'm not in charge of their branding and marketing.
that's a terrible like for someone to like TikTok was so catchy, right? That name, notes. I'm gonna notes you. This is just terrible.
Oh,
JFBI says CPNG. Oh, that's you, Nick. That's you. Yes.
yeah, it's me.
Kupang.
It's Stan Drucken Boss Miller's like second biggest holding.
Yeah,
Second
he
biggest
truly
now.
believes in.
Yeah.
So you can almost never go wrong with anything that Drunken Miller holds. It might just take some time.
Yeah.
It's not if but when with him.
Yeah. He's literally, in my opinion, he's the GOAT. He's pragmatic. He's
His
Oh, big day
speeches.
for Spotify. Wow.
I also love what the dollar's doing. Anyone paying attention to the macros parts of things?
It's puking.
Well, it's the similar kind of topping pattern. It's lower highs as well.
Yep.
So I like this. This is also potentially if we have another topping pattern and it goes to a lower low versus along with the lower highs, you have potentially more ammo to the upside, in my opinion.
Interesting. Hey, let's check on our stock picks real quick since we have a couple minutes or two. Nick is Moderna. Holding up okay through this chop, Nick. You gotta be
Yeah.
pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
You gotta be pretty happy with that.
Well, I
GP on your JD. Oh, sorry, Nick. We can go back to mRNA for a second. Were you gonna say something?
I was just saying, I like how it's kind of just coiling right here off the 200-day. All the moving averages are kind of converging.
Yeah.
So obviously, it needs to get above that, like let's just say 15, 117. Yeah. Anyways, I like it.
I mean, yeah, once you clear the pivot up here, you're in a pretty good spot.
Damn, JD is looking amazing. JD was
Well,
your pick.
yeah,
All right.
GP's coming for our throat this time, Nick.
Yeah.
What was the entry on that?
The entry was 2670.
Okay. It looks great. Yeah, I don't know why it needed to dip last week after being such a crap stock for so long, but it did. It's a nice flag. It's
It looks a little inverse head and shoulderish.
and where the volume is, it's on the head, right? So
Yep.
it's in the right place. Now, we want the volume on the right shoulder, so we need to see something. Looks like it's going to break out right above that moving average, above this kind of flag here. So,
yeah, it's got a pivot right above it, and then the 50 moving average, 50 weekly. Tesla, we already talked about Tesla, but I'll throw my shame up there. My entry was 176. And now we are at, I think it's about 18%. 21, no, 17%. Who's counting?
not bad, not bad.
But we've got earnings today, and it's going to blow to 295 overnight.
315 by May 17th.
It has a better chance of going to 295 today than it does to 100 today. Does anybody want to take the other side of that?
I think on earnings we probably retest yesterday's low, and that's probably the end of the move.
Yeah.
That would be the most logical thing to happen.
That was my rebuttal to everyone saying we're going to 100 or lower. I think if you think that's likely, then it's just as likely to go 295. We shall see.
The bottom is setting in, right? I think that's the key here. You might get a little bit of shake here and there, but that 122, 123 level is the level that is on my radar. I have a stink bid in there if we get it after hours.
Little stink bids, gotta love it. I should probably put in a stink bid or two too.
Yeah.
450. Who's counting?
This Whale Wisdom website is so
I
great.
love it. Yeah, it's one of the
Awesome.
best.
It's awesome.
Gosh.
Like especially for like 13Fs, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have it saved as a favorite, and I use it every quarter to go through the amount of like manually go through what each fund is doing, and it's very informative in terms of where people are going, right? Like, because all I saw, remember in 2022 when we were having conversations about us in a downtrend versus sideways, right? A lot of this stuff that was in the Whale Wisdom every quarter when the 13Fs came out was suggesting they were buying, right? Like they were buying into names. So I'm like, everyone's talking about a downtrend. Price has kind of gone sideways since 2020. What's the institutional money doing? They'd be using the sideways kind of price action to get out or get in, right? So that's always a good point to look for, is like, what is institutional doing while price is going sideways for 6 months, right? I think that's probably, is that the last time we talked to Zach? When we were talking about sideways and downtrend? It's been a while, man.
It's been a while.
Been a while, man. Zach, good to see you're back. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, it's always good to see what institutional investors are like. We can be technical, right? And we can call for bottoms and tops and breakouts and all that other stuff, but it's the fund money that's going to get us to where we're going to go. And what's the fund money doing is always good to know. It's like one side they're talking about a horrendous downturn, but at the same time they're sitting there buying Microsoft. You're like, what the fuck? Like, why aren't you in cash? Every fund wants to be in cash if we're going to be in a horrendous downturn, right? You want opportunities. Yeah. You want opportunities to load the boat and not be strapped into taking losses and potentially lose clients.
1000%. Cash is trash if you're expecting it to go higher, right? You want to bet if you're expecting it to go lower so you can buy.
Yeah, I think so. It's something I used with Tesla too back in 2019 when it tested the bottom of the 6-year range at 180 before all the splits. Is like everything I saw was it's going to go bankrupt, it's going to go bad. But what were the institutional investors doing? Oh, look, they were adding It's like, okay, one side Goldman is telling you to sell, they're downgrading and telling you to sell, right? They call it the Chinese
Mhm.
wall or whatever it's called. And so the buy side doesn't talk to the sell side, so that's why there's differences. But the sell side was saying get rid of Tesla. Meanwhile, the people on the trading desk were actually buying Tesla in 20-30% increments every quarter. So yeah, it's good to see institutional money, and Whale Wisdom is great for that. We
I'm
can
gonna
share
make.
a link, Nick.
I want-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just looking at, well, the link will be to Stan's
Stands
um
buys
yeah. But if you just,
portfolio.
obviously like scroll back and like delete it and just go to whalewisdom.com. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a hot take here. Um, the the common adage, right, is sell in May and go away. I think we're going to have a hot summer. And I think May is going to, if these aren't the lows, our lows are coming within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
and next week, QRA new announcement is coming at the end of the month. FOMC in the beginning of May, May 1st, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
This is similar kind of setup into October OPEX.
Yep.
We had a big downturn into October OPEX. The first thing to bottom was the Dow Jones, which is what the Dow Jones did last week. So just stuff to keep in mind.
Yep. I think we're going to have a hot summer, boys and
It's the hot
ladies.
girl, it's the
If
hot
we have
stock
any
summer.
ladies. Hot stock summer.
And I think it's gonna
It goes along with soft guy summer. I don't know if you guys are keeping up with that trend.
no, I'm
Drizzle,
not.
I'm definitely
drizzle.
feeling I tell you that.
Just go search soft guy summer, soft guy era. Drizzle, drizzle.
Oh,
Hey guys, we're time. I gotta cut us off.
Yeah, can I do one shout out?
Of course.
Shout out to the New York Knicks.
Yeah, the Knickerbockers. What a win last night. I was texting GP. Wow.
That the team does not quit. The team, whether they win or not, whether they get further in the playoffs, don't care. But when a team like that comes together and they play, when their best player is having back-to-back some of the worst games that he's had in his Knick career, other team members stepping up is something that makes me proud overall, because that's what we try to do here as well, is that we try to give you as a team a better synopsis of the market so people don't panic, people don't give up, uh people kind of stick with it, because a lot of this stuff is shenanigans and games and stuff like that. So helping as much as we can, right? We're not perfect. No one really is. So just trying to give you our insights and stuff like that. So shout out to a team that also does the same thing.
It was bittersweet. I was one Jalen Brunson point away from hitting my parlay last night, GP. So
Oh
while I
man.
was glad to see them win, I needed him to score 25 and he scored 24.
Oh, he barely scored that 24th point.
I know. I was watching. I know. Anyway, that's all right. You win some, you lose.
Meanwhile, Netflix high of day, it's about to take out the gap. Just saying.
Hey Brian, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate you guys. Hey Nick, and I appreciate you for making this work today.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you both for making it work, because I got to watch the Knicks play because of you guys.
Well, it's it's a lot of love all around here, and looking forward to doing so much more in the near future. But hey, thanks again for everybody for listening. Thanks for hopping on to our midday session. We will try to return to a Monday night schedule, but we're still in a little bit of a state of flux. So with that, we love you. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Share, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, and